Welcome back to Arise Exchange. Wisconsin is set to become the 25th state with so-called right-to-work legislation, barring requirements for private sector employees to join or pay fees for unions. The cause has made Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, a 2016 presidential hopeful, a political lightning rod. Could this mean more right-to-work legislation across the country? Horace is the senior fellow with the National Center for Public Policy Research, joins us from Washington, D.C. Horace, let's start with the basics. What does right-to-work mean?
It merely means that instead of a compulsory agreement between an employer and a union that everyone who works at a particular site will agree to pay a fee, it means that every individual who pays to a union has to have the option of choosing whether or not they're going to do that. And it's a very, very simple and straightforward concept. If unions supply a valuable service, people will kick in. If they don't, they won't.
Well, but the argument against that is those who don't join the union still get the benefits of the union if a shop is unionized if they're not paying any fees. And therefore, how does a union then support itself?
Well, absolutely. If people say that the only way I'm going to get these benefits is to free ride, then what happens is whatever benefits that they're getting go away, and it necessitates the need for a union to come in if, in fact, but for the union, you wouldn't get these benefits. It isn't the case that you can't have a need for a union without getting the benefits. If there are real benefits that are associated with it, even if you're not compelled to participate, you'd still have an interest in having a union.
Proponents of right to work basically say that part of the problem here is political, that some of the money that you're paying for fees then goes to unions making political donations, which I believe overwhelmingly goes to Democratic candidates. Is that a valid argument, or is it a red herring here to get rid of unions?
Well, it's one of the reasons why union members aren't as enthusiastic about their unions. When you talk about private sector membership, we're at a historic low in America. The only growth in union activity has been in the public sector. So you have people who are interested in firearms. They go hunting on a regular basis. Why would they want to contribute to a union who is anti-gun? Well, and it can be any number of issues that are similar to that.
Let me ask you something, though. Republicans are always talking about let the free market decide, let businesses decide. These are contracts freely entered into by private businesses. If they want the idea of right to work, they can negotiate that. Why do we need the state to enforce it?
But for the federal law that requires, and the state laws that complement that require you to either be a right-to-work state or a union compulsory state, you would have a free market. That's not what we have. What we have is a de facto situation where you are presumed to need to only communicate directly with the union representative instead of your own employees. But as I say, if that was a valuable relationship, there wouldn't be a need for the compulsory aspect.
Okay, so how does this help, do you think, small businesses? Are they part of what's getting caught up here?
Well, very small business, if you're talking about 10 people or less, they're not going to be impacted in this at all one way or the other realistically. But if you're talking about people with 100 employees, or if you're talking about someone who owns, say, a Chili's restaurant, and let's say they own 8 to 10 of them, they could get large enough that if they were operating in a compulsory union membership state, where it does make a big difference to them whether they have to have a negotiation with the union or whether they can communicate directly with their employees.
Let me ask you a political question. Wisconsin is largely a blue state, and Scott Walker has proven pretty successful as a conservative Republican. How is this playing in the state? He seems to have the wind at his back on the union issues. He's been winning these.
Well, his original issue was the budgetary impact of the public sector unions, and he built the support and fought through the recall as a way to put that into place. What's interesting here is that he's not the initiator of this right to work for the private sector, but what he's said is that he will sign it if that bill comes to him. So he appears to have created an environment by the fight that he had with the public sector to cause his own legislature to want to bring him an expanded version of the same concept that he started with.
Horace in Washington, D.C., thank you for walking us through the issues.
Thank you.